Hey guys, Jinx here, and today I want to tell you 3 teams that you'll want to prepare for the upcoming Lunar New Year event. Last year was the introduction of the raid mechanic into PokeMMO, so we likely know what raids to prepare for since we've seen them already. All the information in this video is based on what we think will be coming in the upcoming event, based on what we saw last year. It may be different, however, all these raids are based on the Lunar New Year zodiac signs, so it's pretty likely that we will see the same ones returning. The raids that we're expecting are Lopunny, Perugly, Grumpig, Zebstrika, Stoutland, Ampharos, Steelix, Slacking, Tauros, Braviary, Excadrill, and Gyarados. It's also likely we'll see Shaman as a final boss, but we aren't 100% sure, and this will probably require a specific team anyways, so I'm not going to be covering that one in this video. Since there are many overlapping types in this, I've developed 3 recommended teams that should handle the majority of them. Each of these teams is going to have 6 Pokemon of the type that's most recommended for each of the raids. Even though you probably won't need all 6 of these, because you'll probably have a utility mon like a Prankster Murkrow as one of your fillers, but it's always a good idea to have as many as possible prepared. I'd also recommend having a Sun team ready to go, because that's typically the most effective general strategy. This was able to take out almost all of them last year, however, raids have come a long way, and with new mechanics, especially the ones that include super effective damage caps being higher, I'd recommend building teams that cover specific typings so that you can always hit the max damage cap. If you don't have a Sun team, basically all you need is a modest Ninetales and a bunch of strong fire Pokemon, and then you're good to go. Every single player should also have a Prankster Murkrow ready to go. The stats don't matter on it at all, but just have one that's available so that you can set up Tailwind or use Haze throughout the fights. After you watch this video, if you want more details on a good Sun team, check out this video that I recommend by Cav, which covers the Pokemon that are best to use in the general situations of the Sun strategy. Before we get into the builds, I pretty much recommend across the board just going either Adamant or Modest. Whatever, if it's a physical attacker, go Adamant, or if it's a special attacker, go Modest. You're pretty much always going to want attack over speed in all of the situations that arise in raids. So Adamant's typically preferred over Jolly, and Modest is typically preferred over Timid. However, most of the time you can get away with any plus attack or plus special attack nature. For raids, you'll generally want your Pokemon ready at level 80. That's typically the highest level that they go to in raids outside of the highest end legendary raids. I also typically build mine with 31 in their attack or special attack stat, 31 in their speed stat, and I usually shoot for about 20 or 25 plus in each of their defenses, just because in some raids it's really important to try to outlast and get a few more turns in before you go down. There are many that you can just go in one turn, hit hard, and then go down. However, it's really nice to have that extra defense so that you can get a bonus attack in before going down. The first team we're going to look at is going to cover the 5 normal type bosses. While Sun might be okay for these, it's probably a better idea to have a proper team. Especially if we see Slacking return, it was quite difficult last time, even when you could hit the max damage cap with Fire Mons in Sun. So for Lopunny, Perugly, Stoutland, Slacking, and Tauros, my first recommendation is going to be Emboar. Coming in with a high 123 base attack stat, he's going to hit for massive damage with a move like Close Combat. In addition, he also has dual typing with Fire, which means he can be extremely beneficial as part of your Sun team. If you're able to get hidden ability Reckless on him, then you can boost moves like Flare Blitz up to a base power of 144 and Head Smash up to a whopping 180 base power, with rock type coverage as well, which could be vital in one of the raids that I'm going to discuss shortly. If you don't have Reckless on your Emboar, but you've already built one, you can simply just use an ability patch on it, since it's a starter mon. The next Pokemon that I'm going to recommend is Hitmonlee. This is due to its 120 base attack power, along with its great ability Reckless. This means that its high jump kick comes in with a base power of 156 when you add the Reckless bonus. While High Jump Kick only has 90% accuracy, you can pair Hitmonlee with a Wide Lens to boost this up to 99% accuracy, and it'll still hit extremely hard. With its huge attack power and the Reckless boost, you'll likely be hitting damage cap even without a damage boosting item, which frees up your use of a Choice Band or Life Orb for one of the other members of your party. It also has access to Brick Break, like many of the other ones on this list, which is really useful if a boss comes in with a Reflect or a Light Screen mechanic. Gallade and Medicham fill a similar role, so I'm going to pair them up together. They both have great typing by pairing Psychic and Fighting, meaning they can cover a ton of situations. These two have already seen use in a lot of the high-level raids so far. With Sharpness and Pure Power as their abilities, they'll hit hard with Sacred Sword or Close Combat, and also have access to Psycho Cut and Zen Headbutt for coverage on other raids. They also have access to a variety of good special moves, which can be beneficial with the mechanic that swaps your physical and special stats. My next three recommendations are actually going to be special attackers. This is because you want to be prepared for a variety of situations in case we see mechanics like Jirachi's shield, where you need to use fake tears and then set it up with special moves to break the shield. If you don't have attackers of both types prepared, then you might be stuck unable to work through the upcoming mechanics. There are a ton of great physical attacking fighting types that you could also put on your team, so I thought it would be better to highlight some good special attackers. Lucario is probably the best special attacking fighting type, with 115 special attack stat and access to moves like Aura Sphere and Focus Blast. It's one of the few fighting types who can hit hard with stab special fighting moves. Its steel dual typing can also be useful for its defensive capabilities, helping it take hits for normal bosses that it's going to be used up against. It also has Flash Cannon as a great coverage option for the other raids if needed. My last two recommendations are going to be paired together, similar to Metachan and Gallade, just because they serve a similar purpose. These two are Blaziken and Infernape. While both can be built as physical or special attackers, I prefer going with mine as special attackers just because we are very limited in our access to special fighting types. The primary benefit of these is similar to Emvor, where the typing allows it to be versatile and work with some teams. Aura Sphere and Focus Blast can do great stab damage here as well. And the benefit of not using a physical Infernape is you won't be tempted to use its Iron Fist hidden ability, so you can just save on the ability patch for that. And finally, some honorable mentions would be Breloom. Since you probably already have one, just use your catching Breloom and throw Close Combat on it and it's probably raid ready. Heracross is also a great option due to having bug coverage, which might come in handy with the Purugly raid. It also has the ability Guts, which is great if there's an AoE, burn effect, or other status move that the boss is going to use. This is the case in Heatran, where Heracross's ability is really good as it comes in and instantly gets burned, activating Guts. The next one we're going to take a look at is how to beat Zebstrika, Ampharos, and Excadrill. I grouped these up because I think Earthquake Spam is most likely going to be the best strat here. But remember that EQ is only a base power of 70 in raids due to it being an AoE move that you're using in a multi-battle. That said, it's still likely strong enough to smash through these three bosses. While Excadrill could theoretically be taken down with a Sun team and Fire, my guess is that we're likely going to see a permanent Sand Weather effect that pairs with either its Sand Force or its Sand Rush. So I don't think Sun Spam will be ideal here based on what I'm predicting. However, if you can just set up Sun and spam Fire, that's probably going to be the better pick. However, again, I don't know if that's actually going to work. I'd be surprised if we could use weather effects against Excadrill. My first recommendation is going to be Tyranitar. While it doesn't get stabbed for EQ, it's always nice to have a Sand Setter to boost any special defense on your rock users of your team. The main one this is going to be useful for is Ampharos, since it's a good special attacker and you'll have extra defense against it using Sand. Tyranitar could also be useful in another one of the raids that I'm going to discuss shortly, being a rock type. So I think it's a good bet on Amon to prepare for it. It also has dark type coverage, which can help with Grumpig, which is the one boss that I don't have a specific team for because it's kind of an odd man out, just being the only psychic type. Krook is going to be the next mon that I think that everyone should have. This thing is a beast with EQ and has seen a lot of use, especially due to its dual typing with dark. You could set it up as a crunch or an assurance user as well if you're going into Grumpig, in addition to using EQ for these raids. Not much else can be said about it. It's not the most standout on paper, it's got pretty good attack, but it always performs really well. Garchomp is another one with a very solid dual typing. It's got crazy base stats, so it's likely going to be a strong contender for this strategy. Again, not much said about it, just crazy high base stats. It'll come in, it'll hit well, it always does its job. Excadrill is the next mon that I'm going to recommend. Its ability Sand Force gives a boost of 30% in its attack when in a sandstorm, which means it'll pair really well with T-Tar or if the Excadrill does have permanent sand setup. While the hidden ability Mold Breaker sees a lot of use in some other strategies, I think Sand Force is probably preferred in raid scenarios, meaning your wallet can relax a little bit. Rhyperior comes in with a massive 140 base attack stat. Its only downside is that it's quite a bit slower. However, we usually have Tailwind set up in raids, so with a high speed IV and EV training, it should be able to outspeed most of the bosses. Its slow speed could actually be beneficial if there is a Trick Room mechanic. However, with these 3 bosses specifically, I doubt that that'll be the case. It also has dual type rock, which again might come up useful in our next set. It also benefits from the Sandstorm special defense boost against Ampharos, who's likely going to be bringing a bunch of special attacks. The next and final recommendation for your team would be Nidoking. This would be our special attacker for our ground type. As I explained before, it's not really a good idea to put all your eggs in the physical basket. It's a good plan to have some special attackers for each situation. A modest Flygon can also be really good here. However, Nidoking is a commonly taken special attacking ground type because it can use Earth Power, but it also has a ton of other coverage moves, so it depends on the mechanics that arise, but it should be able to adapt quite well to any situation. The final team that I'm going to recommend you build is to deal with Braviary and Gyarados. These should go down easily to Thunder Spam in raid, especially Gyarados, who has a 4x weakness, but you're going to need hard hitters to ensure you always hit the damage cap each turn, because especially Gyarados will annihilate any Pokemon put in front of it after it gets a couple Moxie stacks. It's likely, in my opinion, that we'll see adaptability on Gyarados, which will make it resist electric moves. This means that I think it would actually be best to shift your team, if it does have the adaptability, to Rock Mons that I previously mentioned, especially T-Tar since it could shut off rain, and swap it to Sand on demand if it's a mid-fight adaptability. Just as a quick note, in case you didn't know, Thunder is only 70% accuracy, however when it's in rain, it actually has 100% accuracy, which is why you always want to set up rain before Thunder spamming. The first two we'll look at is our rain setters. This is Politoed or Pelipper. They're pretty much interchangeable as your rain setters. Whichever one you have is fine, but for a more ideal build, you'll probably want Modest, so that you could do some decent damage with things like Hydro Pump or Hurricane on Pelipper or Ice Beam against these mons. If you make a timid Politoed, it can be really useful for Heatran, so I would say this is a really good call too. You'll need high HP and special defense if this is the case, somewhere around like 28 to 31, along with 31 speed and 31 special attack. I'll be sharing a new Heatran strat pretty soon that we've been working on. The two legendaries, Zapdos and Raikou, are amazing Thunder spammers. Just make sure that you go out and hunt them whenever you have the chance. It's currently January, so Zapdos is available in the wild, so I definitely recommend trying to get it before the event if you haven't yet. Ampharos is another great option, especially because you'll likely be earning one throughout the event. This means you could wait for mid-event and just use the one that you earn, but if you want a more ideal one, you'll definitely want to prep it in advance. Something with modest and high special attack is obviously best with this. Zipstrika could also be a similar filler here since you'll be picking one of them up also, but it's more of a physical attacker than a special attacker. Magnezone is the highest attacking Thunder user with a base attack stat of 130. While speed can be a bit tough with Magnezone, again, you're usually going to have Tailwind up, so it really shouldn't be a problem as long as you breed it with some speed and train it up with your EV training. Jolteon has great options since it's fast and it has a great special attack stat. It also has the benefit of having access to many useful utility moves such as Light Screen and Reflect. The next one I'm going to recommend is Rotom, who is pretty unique because you can change its typing for just 25k. This means it's super versatile from raid to raid, so I recommend that everybody has one. If you're going in with a Sun team, you can just change it to Rotom Heat, but this doesn't really matter since any form is going to be useful for Thunder spamming, since they're all electric type. Again, just to ensure that we have some physical mons who can cover here, the next one we're going to check out is Pikachu. If you're able to go through the annoying process of getting Volt Tackle onto it by breeding two Pikachus together with one holding Light Ball, then it's going to be the hardest hitting physical attacking electric type when it holds a Light Ball, which doubles its attack. Volt Tackle has 120 base power, so it can hit very hard. Also, it doesn't compete with the other items like Choice Band, so that's always a benefit. You can go with Raichu here as well, however Pikachu will hit a bit harder. Electivire is the final one that I'm going to throw in here as another alternative to Thunder. Just in case we do see a mechanic that prevents special attacks or something, it might be handy to have an extra physical attacking electric type. And again, in case we do see that adaptability on Gyarados, it's not a bad idea to have a couple of extra rock types kicking around. So that pretty much covers them all. The only one this won't cover is Grumpig, who's a psychic type. So if you do have a couple dark types, ghost types, or bug types, or you want to build some of the recommendations here, like Crocodile, Tyranitar, Heracross, those are all really good options to help deal with Purugly. Hopefully, these teams prove to be useful in the upcoming raids. It's always hard to say since we never know in advance when the event will happen or what to expect in it, but it's better to be prepared in advance rather than be stuck wasting time leveling during that precious limited time of an event. If you have any other recommendations, make sure to leave them in the comments below, and don't forget to like and subscribe while you're down there. Thank you guys so much for watching all the way to the end, and thank you so much to all the supporters of the channel. I really appreciate all my YouTube members and Twitch subscribers. I usually stream Friday nights, MST, so come hang out sometime if you're feeling up to it. I hope you have a fantastic rest of the day, and I'll see you all next time.